there's a number of factors that contributed to me healing, or reversing this anxiety and depression. And it comes back down to these neurotransmitters, the catecholinergic neurotransmitters. So as we touched base earlier, the catecholinergic neurotransmitter synthesis needs tryptophan, tyrosine, and cofactors. The food we eat blocks these cofactors. So even though you were consuming certain foods, you were blocking the body's ability to absorb and create these neurotransmitters. One in particular is dopamine. Now, we are hardwired to chase dopamine, and we should be producing it naturally. But if we are unable to produce dopamine, we will find it from other sources. So what do? Well, we can procreate, because that will give us a dopamine hit. Not always our choice, though. So what's the next easiest available thing? Well, it's a sugary treat or carbohydrate, because a cake, a biscuit will give us this dopamine fix. And that's what we do. And then we do that and we feel good. So we do it again. We eat more. All of the while the foods we are consuming are blocking, again, the body's ability to create these neurotransmitters, blocking our body's ability to create all of these, dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, melatonin, everything the body needs. So we go back for more.
That's why they call it comfort food, because it gives you that dopamine response. Yes. And so it gives you a chemical, neurochemical reaction as if you won a bodybuilding championship. That's an extreme, but any time that you accomplish something, I mean, for me, it's publishing a podcast. Bam, dopamine hit. I love publishing podcasts. It's like I pour my life into this show, man. When one of my athletes checks in and has something positive to say, bam, that's a dopamine hit. And so when you start looking at food as your answer for that, that's a huge problem, because now you're eating foods that are going to strip your body of nutrients, and they're highly addictive. Your body doesn't have the nutrients that it needs anymore, and so it's looking for more food and for more dopamine and for more nutrition, and it's just never satisfied.
Yep, never satisfied, and it leads to this cascade of events that are detrimental, because now we're consuming foods that are high in carbohydrate, even though we may think our cereal or bread, pasta, right, wherever it may be, is good for us, our grains. What happens is that it leads to insulin resistance. And this is inevitable over time. So if you consume excess sugar, carbohydrate, you will develop some form of insulin resistance over time. Now, the issue with this is that it creates more ACE2 receptors. So when we look at viruses and infections, these need to bind to a receptor site within the body. And, in particular to some viruses and infections, it could be different receptors, but the ACE2 receptor is a common one. We all have these receptors within the body, but what happens is when we become insulin resistant, the body creates more of them. So what this means is now, we are, when we are more susceptible to a virus, or around people who suffer with viruses and infections, we're now more susceptible because we're giving this virus more docking stations to bind to. So now we've become ill because we've created more of these receptors within the body. The body sequesters iron. So what it does when we become ill, the body sequesters iron as ferritin. It pulls it into ferritin stores to take it out of circulation, because pathogens love iron. So whenever we get a virus, a pathogen, they thrive on iron. So the body sequesters it in order to kill or to fight off this virus. The issue with this is, as I said earlier, the catecholinergic neurotransmitters within the brain require iron as a cofactor in order to create these neurotransmitters. So now we can't create these neurotransmitters. So now we've got a virus or, some sort of illness. The body has sequestered this iron, which makes us more ill or more depressed, because we cannot no longer fight off this virus, because our iron that we are consuming from our diet is no longer bioavailable to create these neurotransmitters. So now the neurotransmitters are blocked. Now we feel depressed and sad, and then we eat more crap, And then it's this vicious cycle, the downward spiral that prevents the body from being able to heal and repair. So the answer to this is that we need to remove the foods that are causing these problems. So this is the foods that are blocking the absorption, these lectins, these phytic acids. We need to take them out. We need to eat more animal proteins, more nutrient-dense animal proteins that contain these cofactors, these, the magnesium, the iron, the vitamin B12, various others that we mentioned. And now the body can create these neurotransmitters, and now we don't feel as depressed. Now we're happy, and now the body is able to fight off viruses, infections. Because another thing that occurs through excess carbohydrate consumption is something called glycation. So this is when cells, if you like, become sticky. The glucose molecules will bind to cells and cause them to glycate, to become sticky. And this causes advanced glycation end products, which cause havoc within the body. And this leads us to becoming unwell as well, and sick and unhealthy. So it's this massive cycle, if you like, of ill health, which stems from the foods that we eat. So when we remove these offending foods, we feel better, we feel healthier, we improve this insulin resistance, we reverse the glycation, and now the neurotransmitters in the brain are able to be produced from the foods that we are eating. And it is as simple as that, even to the point that Alzheimer's and dementia is 99% preventable, because Alzheimer's and dementia is brought on through the foods that we eat. They are caused by the same mechanisms, particularly this insulin resistance and stuff in the brain. There are other factors involved with the insulin resistance and stuff in the brain, but it all comes down to the foods that we eat in. In terms of Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is affected by something called the glutamatergic neurons, which need rapid energy from glucose, which the body creates. So we don't need to consume oral glucose, the body will create it. But the nerve cells can only use glucose for energy because they don't have mitochondria, and we only mitochondria can use ketones for energy. Now, glucose passes into the brain through the GLUT1 transporter, and more cells use the GLUT3 transporter, both of which are insulin independent, means that they do not need insulin. But the hippocampus only uses the GLUT4 transporter, which is insulin dependent, which means the hippocampus requires insulin. Now, the issue with this is, in a situation of insulin resistance, we flood the blood-brain barrier with insulin over time, causing the receptors to downregulate, meaning the brain can literally be swimming in a sea of glucose, but it's unable to utilize it for energy. And this is the start of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and dementia. It all comes down to the foods that we are eating, causing this insulin resistance, this glycation, and the body's ability to block, these pathways, these processes, this catecholaminergic neurotransmitter synthesis within the brain. And in the case of Alzheimer's, it's homocysteine, which is an amino acid. Vitamin B12 and 6 and folate break down homocysteine to create other chemicals that the body needs, such as methionine. But high homocysteine levels can lead to a vitamin deficiency, and without treatment can lead to an increased risk of dementia and heart disease and stroke. And again, so we need vitamin B12, we need vitamin B6. So vitamin B12 is cobalamin, vitamin B6 is pyridoxine, and folate B9. We need these from our diet. And when we co-consume these foods from a vegan or vegetarian style diet, we block the absorption of these nutrients. And in the case of cobalamin, as I said earlier, we can only get it from animal proteins. You cannot get cobalamin through plants. Yes, you can supplement, but why should you have to supplement? The fact that you need to supplement means that something isn't right. Pyridoxine is very low.
Exactly.
That should give us pause for thought, really. This lifestyle that we are told is incredibly healthy, this vegan vegetarian type lifestyle. This is why vegans and vegetarians have a higher rate of depression and anxiety and a higher rate of suicide, believe it or not. So it comes down to the foods that we are eating. So this is why living our lifestyle makes us feel good. It makes us feel happy. It gives us loads of energy, and it affects the way that our brains function. And this is why I believe that I've managed to reverse my my depression and anxiety is through these mechanisms. And when you understand that it's the food that we eat that is blocking our body's ability to create these neurotransmitters, then now you can make these conscious decisions. You can make these educated decisions on a daily basis. And you can say, well, do you know what? I'm not going to eat my toast or cereal today. I'm not going to eat my bread, pasta, or rice. I'm going to have a piece of steak without potato or whatever else. It's but being armed with the knowledge enables you to make that educated decision. And this is what I try to do with the people that I work with, my clients, my customers. I educate them so they can make these decisions themselves, because we had a conversation just before we came on. I've got a coffee, which is now empty. I don't drink coffee every day.
How dare you? I'm drinking creatine that has sucralose in it.
Sacked. So but we understand that these things are causing issues. But today we are making that educated decision to consume that product or that supplement because we understand what it's causing. Now, in terms of coffee, it's not just the caffeine which affects. So caffeine is something else that can affect depression and anxiety as well, because it alters something called the GABA to glutamate ratio. And one is an excitatory part of the brain, and the other is the calming part. And that's what caffeine does. Is it increases this ratio negatively, which leads to anxiety. It blocks the adenosine receptors in the brain, which can downregulate the body's ability to cope with the caffeine. And it doesn't give you energy. It blocks it makes us feel that we're not tired, even though that we are. So it doesn't give you energy. It just takes away the perception of us being tired.
So that's why, like, after you've already had 300 milligrams before a workout, this is what I used to do. I'm 4 months caffeine sober now. But I don't recommend that everybody cuts caffeine out of their diet permanently for those that were training, because if you're having a cup or two of coffee a day, that's the damage that you're causing is minimal compared to a lot of the pre-workouts that'll have 500 milligrams plus, and it's not just the caffeine, but they're loaded with a whole bunch of other stimulants too. But that makes a lot of sense now as to why it would kill your appetite, but not in a good way. Like you don't like you're not hungry, but it's because you kind of feel sick. And when you consume too much caffeine, it doesn't give you more energy. It makes you more tired, and then you're screwed, because then all you can do is wait it out. You're just going to feel like crap for the next 4 or 5 hours.
At some point, the piper's got to be paid. Pay him today or tomorrow. At some point, you've got to pay the price. And I understand that. Now, I've got an incredibly tough sort of week or two that I've been going through in regards to work and things. So this has been helping me borrow tomorrow's energy today, if you like. But I'm also conscious that when I get to the end of that road, I'm going to crash and burn. But I'm using it as a tool, but I understand how it's affecting me. There are benefits to taking caffeine, because it is a fat mobilizer. If you take caffeine before you train, it will allow you to burn more fat. But too much caffeine will cause damage to the adrenals and increase cortisol. And increased cortisol will cause fat storage. So it's not a case of more is best. It is a happy medium in regards to using caffeine. But it's not just the caffeine in coffee. It's a compound called acrylamide, which leads to inflammation and can cause cancer. Acrylamide is in all coffee, whether it's decaf or not. So, but again, this acrylamide is accumulative, and I understand that. So I understand that I have to drink loads of coffee every day for it to build up to cause a problem. If I'm having one now and again, it's not going to cause an issue, and I'm happy to take that. But it's understanding the effect and implications of consuming those foods. But it's not to say you can never eat any of these foods again. If one day you want to go out and have an ice cream, then that's fine. It's all about the rule excuse me, and not the exception. If you were living healthy 30 days out of a month, that little bit of ice cream isn't going to cause, a massive issue within your body once your gut is healed. Now, do I eat ice cream? No, not really, but I'm just using it as an example. It's okay to fall off the wagon.
Yeah, thanks for addressing that too, because we don't want to sound like we're holier than thou, right? And like we never break any of these rules. Like, I don't consume carbohydrates because I can't handle it. It's like being an alcoholic. Like if I'm gonna have a donut, I'm gonna sell out the entire factory, right? There's people that I'm guessing that you're probably like me too. Then you have like people like in the rest of my family that can eat a cookie and stop. I'm like, how do you eat one cookie? How is that even possible? Like it's either no cookies or the entire box. And so for me, yeah, cheat days are ketogenic ice cream every Friday with a protein bar. For that reason too, it gives me something to look forward to, and it helps a lot of our clients stick with their meal plans long term too, because we got to look at what's realistic. We live in a correct. Yeah, we live in a world where cake and pies and stuff is part of our culture, man. And if you take that out of someone's life, like their life could fall apart. And so I think as coaches, we need to be sensitive to that too.
And that's exactly why, circling back to something that we mentioned off air, just before we came on.
Yeah, let's dive more into that. Actually, I think that would be great for our listeners.
Perfect. So look, I am a strict carnivore. I don't drink coffee very often, and to be honest, if that's all I've got to worry about, then I don't have an awful lot to worry about. But generally, I am incredibly strict. I would regard myself as being one of the strictest carnivores on the planet, with the exception of Dr. Chafee. Dr. Anthony Chafee, I believe, is the strictest carnivore that I know. And I take my hat off to him for that. He doesn't drink coffee because it causes serious inflammation within his body. So he can't get away with that. It doesn't cause inflammation in my body unless I drink it excessively. So I've got a little bit more leeway there. But coffee is that's my little thing now and again. But coming back to what you said, we live in a society that's full of chocolate treats, cakes and cookies and breads and rices and all this sort of stuff. And even though I live a strict lifestyle, I didn't wake up yesterday being a strict carnivore. I began low carb, then I gravitated into dirty keto, then clean keto, and it was a progressive, an incremental journey that led me down to become carnivore, which was roughly 4 years ago. But even then, I was probably more animal-based over carnivore, strict carnivore. And now I've gravitated into a more stricter lifestyle. But I'm conscious that not everybody wants to live our lifestyle. Not everybody can make such a drastic step. Yes, to you and I, eating steak every day is fantastic. And I would never go back now, But to somebody else, that's such a big step. So so what I do at Keto Pro is I cater for everybody within the low carb ketogenic community. I produce breads and pastas and wraps and cakes, all sorts of stuff that are low carb and are there for the low carb community, all with varying degrees of strictness, if you like, from being low carb up to strict keto and then on to being strict carnivore. But I help and work with anyone who wants my help, regardless of where they are on their journey, because I've tried doing that strict approach, and it seems too much of a big step for most people. These incremental changes work best. And what I've noticed recently is a lot of animosity within the Facebook and social media groups, where somebody will post a meal that contains something that isn't carnivore or keto, and everybody will jump on that person's back.
God forbid. How dare you? You're a disgrace to the carnivore community.
That's not keto. That's what you and it's like,
yeah, lions and dogs and cats aren't even looking at you the same anymore. They're like, come on, bro.
And what I find is that person has just, they've taken a big step to come onto my Facebook group, for example. Taking a lot of guts to post a picture of their meal, and they're looking for support. And then what they get is 10 people putting negative comments on. That person leaves my group, throws the towel in, and goes back to being incredibly unfit and unhealthy. we need to nurture these people, support them. What you've done is fantastic, brilliant. Keep it up, excellent work. Or by the way, maybe the sauce you're using, maybe you could swap it for this one because it does this, or maybe you could swap this out for that. Everybody's on their own journey, and we need to support them on that journey. We shouldn't criticize people for putting something in that we deem not to be ketogenic, because all foods are ketogenic. People will say that's not ketogenic. Ketosis is a metabolic state. It doesn't matter what you eat. It's whether what you eat causes or elicits an insulin response that's going to pull you from a ketogenic state. Now, I'm not saying everything is healthy. There are foods out there that I will tell you are detrimental to your health. But if reducing them is what it takes you to gravitate into a healthier lifestyle in order to reduce your carbohydrate, to reduce your lectin content, then that is what you need to do. If you need to have a treat now and again to maintain the journey predominantly, that is what you need to do, because this is all about the rule and not the exception. If you need to have, and I don't call it a cheat day, I call it a mental reset day. So if you were craving a Burger King, or whatever it may be, whatever your go-to is, if you were craving that, then pick a day. Say 3 weeks next Wednesday, right? That's the day I'm going to treat myself to this thing that I've been, and do it. Go and have that meal, indulge, do whatever you want. And the next day you jump back on the wagon. Yes, there's going to be detrimental impacts from eating that food that are going to slow down your progress, but you've just reset yourself mentally. You've given yourself, instead of binging, instead of going out and being uncontrollably binging on that food, you've told yourself this has been booked into your diary as the day that you were going to have that food, whatever it may be, and you've had that food on that day, and now you've reset your body, reset your mind, and now you get back on it. That one day isn't going to stop, all of the good work that you've put in. And that's important to remember, because if you fall off the wagon, it isn't game over. Pick yourself back up, write that day off, do as you say, smash that bloody box of cookies or whatever, do whatever you got to do. And I'm not saying that's healthy, by the way, but you do what you got to do to get you back on the wagon the next day and back on eating as clean and as healthy as you can, because again, it's all about the rule and not the exception. We're all entitled to eat a little bit of crap now and again, should we wish to do so. We're all human. None of us are perfect. We all have these mental reset days, unless you're Dr. Chafee, who's fair play to him. He's the guy's a bloody Superman. He is, I think, the world's strictest.
He's an inspiration to all of us, man. I would add Bart K to that list too, but I think he eats potato chips from time to time, right? That's his thing.
So there it is. Everybody has these times, and Bart was on my podcast recently, and I asked him what he eats, and he said he does have 5 or 10 days now and again, I believe it was, where he will eat a load of crap and do whatever he wants, But the difference is we've healed our gut, and when you get to that point, you can afford to do these things. Yeah. Sean Baker, I believe, eats birthday cake on his birthday, So it's even the elitists. We're all only human. So my point to this is, you don't have to be perfect all the time. Just aim to be as close to perfect as you can most of the time, and go for the foods that are going to impact you the least. If it involves having a keto bar or some fake pasta, whatever it might be, a keto cake, or the keto breads and wraps, or whatever it may be, if that's what you need to carry you through tomorrow, or to take you on to the next part of your journey, then all of those things are okay, as long as you understand that they are not optimal and there is further progression to come. But it's up to you to make these progressive movements in your own time. Don't let anybody else rush you. You've got to run this at your own pace. It's got to be sustainable, because that is the key. It's got to be sustainable. If you cannot sustain something, then you're doomed for failure.
100%. I love your advice on that. And I would add to that having an accountability partner too is particularly helpful. So like what we'll do, within our superset community is on Fridays. I will actually text my own clients and say, hey, it's ice cream day for me. I'm a human being just like all of you guys. I'm texting you so that I stay accountable to this. Here's what I'm eating, and I shoot them a picture of it before I eat it, and then eventually, people aren't dumb. They can tell. Wow, three days later, are you sure you're not still eating like a bunch of those things? Having accountability, and then having some sort of a plan or a hack to zap your appetite if you know you're eating sugar and something that's just going to make you be a bottomless pit. So like if I'm going to indulge in ice cream, or if I'm going to indulge in something that I know is going to ramp up my appetite because it's not something that I'm used to eating, I'll have a tea or like a sparkling water that has like with a little bit of lemon flavor, or just something, or even just like a handful of ground beef, and then it gets whatever was in that food that was ramping up my appetite to begin with to kind of settle down, and then I feel better after that.
Yeah, and that's an important point
because has nutrition.
Oh, go on. I think there's a bit of a time delay, isn't there?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So coming back to that, some of the foods that we eat, the foods that contain lectins, will block satiety signaling. They'll block leptin. So that's an important point as well. If you are craving certain foods, there are some things that you can do to negate this. I mean, staying hydrated is really important. Electrolytes, that's why I consume electrolytes. And that's a product that I make. Mm-hmm. A question that I get asked quite often is, well, why are you supplementing with electrolytes if this is the perfect diet? Well, I don't drink an awful lot of bone broth. I don't have time to boil my bones. So, and salt in your meals is fantastic, but I do supplement with the electrolytes that I make because that keeps me at an optimal level. And that's what we would have done as we were evolving, is we would have used everything within that animal, the bones, and we would have created bone broth. We would have stored our meat on rocks. We would have been drinking puddle water. So we would have getting lots of salts. So salts are important. That can block satiety signaling. Help with satiety. We can consume foods that will activate something called cholecystokinin. These are foods like omega-3s, so fatty fish, saturated fats. So as you said, with the ground beef or eggs, that will help satiety signaling. Mm-hmm. We can go out in the sun, because the sun stimulates something called MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone. This also has been shown to help combat food cravings. You can supplement with glutamine. That will help block sugar cravings. So all of these are little tricks that you can do. MCT oils and powders, you can put that in your coffee. Coconut oil, butter, exogenous ketones. Those are my tricks. My go-to is the ketones. I pop that in my coffee with some MCT powder, and that blocks satiety. It just shuts down any form of hunger. But there's a few tricks there. You can implement a lot of different things to help combat those cravings. So choose whichever one of those or a combination that's going to help, because we need to block those craving signals. And again, it comes back to that dopamine fix. We're fueling that, so we need to get back to creating those neurotransmitters as soon as we can in order to get our neurotransmitters firing on all cylinders. And I think that for me is the takeaway for the podcast. The recording is, we've got to create these neurotransmitters through eating real food and avoiding the foods that are blocking the body's ability to do so. And as a side note, I don't know if you'll thank me for this or not later, but there's we've mentioned a few foods that contain lectins and phytic acid and things like breads, pastas, rice, and things. A little side note, a little tip. If you are going to put carbohydrate in, my preferred source of carbohydrate is white rice, because white rice is lectin free. So if you are going to put a little bit of carbohydrate in for whatever reason, then I would rather you do it through white rice than potato, because potato still contains lectins, and white rice is I believe to be one of the better sources of carbohydrate. I'm not telling you to put that in. If you don't want it, don't put it in, obviously. But that is probably one of the better sources over any other form of carbohydrate, in my opinion, at least.
Absolutely. For those that are listening too, if you have not heard our conversation on Carnivore Coach's Corner, we actually took a deep dive into the Keto Pro fueled by fat, exogenous ketones, and exogenous electrolytes, and both of those are. This is probably the single best electrolyte supplement I've ever seen. Most electrolytes, correct me if I'm wrong, are too heavily loaded in sodium, which can deplete your potassium intake, correct? So yours is so yours has a very, very hefty dose and a bit more reasonable dose of sodium compared to other. I'm not going to say any names, but basically there's like two or three. Basically, there's like two or three leading electrolyte supplements that all my clients are hooked on. I'm not a huge fan of them. I just use Celtic sea salt, the pink potassium cave salt, because it's got a 1-to-1 sodium to potassium ratio. So that's been my electrolyte, I guess, solution there. But yeah, it's called theketopro.com, guys. Go check out these supplements that he's talking about. That and the exogenous ketones is also something else that I'm curious about experimenting with myself personally. I've never tried it before.
And I said in the last episode I was going to send you bits, and I have not sent them yet. So I need to get my butt into gear and send you those. But it's I'm in the middle of moving facilities. So
dude, I got to get my butt into gear too. I was going to send you something. We need to actually exchange physical addresses after this.
Definitely. Both as bad as each other. But yeah, we're both busy guys. Yeah, we'll get to it. So yeah, I'm in the middle of moving facilities. I've currently got 3 facilities on the go at the moment. Wow. And it's so lots going on, and I'll be in a far better position next week, hopefully. But yeah, it's for any of the listeners that do visit the website, please don't shoot me, when you visit the website. I stock a wide range of stuff that from low carb up to dirty keto all the way up to strict carnivore. The Keto Pro approved stuff is the creme de la creme. Everything else is what I would call keto friendly or low carb, because as I say, I work with everybody within the low carb, and keto friendly community as well. And I service all areas. Some products are better than others. But it depends on who you are and where you are in your journey. So don't shoot me if you see a product on there that you don't agree with, or even I don't agree with. They are there for a purpose, to help others who are not as far down their journey as you and I are. But through education, we will get them there. We can educate them, and they can make these decisions on a daily basis, and hopefully we can get them to be strict keto or even carnivore one day, perhaps. But if they are comfortable where they are and they're reaping the benefits, then, so be it. But it's there's improvement to be had at any point down the journey. But I just wanted to get that in there before somebody sends me an email.
or shoots you, even worse than that. Yeah. Please don't shoot Richard Smith, guys. And if you do, I'm shooting you. Okay. So. Love it. They know the drill. Same thing applies to our website too. It's like we have things where it's like, okay, no, if you're on a meal plan and on competition prep, like, don't be buying this stuff, man. Don't be buying my protein powder or my protein bars. Like, that'll kill your prep. But if you're someone that is otherwise nailing your diet, you don't have a photo shoot coming up or anything, and it's like, hey, you want something to look forward to that's going to be a healthier option than what you've been eating before, to be able to splurge here and there. Yeah, I mean, you can make a protein bar taste like a pastry or a ketogenic bar. And I've been on your website a lot lately, and I mean, everything on there looks great. Looks great to me. It's like you can necessarily go wrong with buying anything. But yeah, no, I love how you say that. This is what I respect about you so much, bro. Is that, like, you'll talk somebody out of buying something if you know them and you know that that's gonna take them further backward on their health journey. But you know that you could sell someone, you could sell someone a ketogenic this or that, or a ketogenic supplement that maybe they don't even need. And that's probably why you have the reputation that you do, is because people trust you. They know that you care about them as a person, their overall health. And these things that we have on the website, it's a convenient way to support the show. It's a way to be able to give back. But we're not saying that all the products that we stand behind are perfect for every single person in every single scenario.
Appreciate that. Yeah, really kind, and I totally agree.
Cool. Has nutrition itself been the main contributing factor, or has intermittent fasting also played a key role in achieving a peaceful, focused state of mind?
Yeah, so look, fasting is an incredible tool. Fasting will put you into a state of autophagy, but the benefits of autophagy can be elicited by just living a ketogenic lifestyle, because that's what being ketogenic is, i.e. carnivore. It's the same metabolic state. We elicit the same responses, so the body will still benefit from autophagy, mitophagy, brown fat activation, and lipolysis, even without fasting, because that's what being keto is. It's fasting mimicking, if you like, because we're not eliciting that insulin response. The body is, thinks it's constantly in that state. So you don't have to fast. So people ask me every day, do you fast? And my answer is no, but technically I do. And what I mean by that,
because you don't do it on purpose, but you just kind of fall into it.
Exactly. I don't wake up saying, right, this is my fasting window, this is my eating window. I wake up, if I'm hungry, I'll eat. If I'm not hungry, I don't. I eat when I'm hungry. If I'm not hungry, I don't eat. It just so happens that I'm not hungry most of the time. And when I do come around to eating, then it has been, 16, 18, 20 hours since I ate previously. So, is that fasting? Well, technically, yes. But I'm not forcing a fast. I'm eating intuitively. And I think eating intuitively is more important than forcing a fasted state. Because if you force a fasted state and you're not ready for it, it can drive up hunger signaling, and it can lead you to binging, and it can lead you to eating the wrong foods. So eat intuitively, just practice on building up the foods that you're eating to complement a ketogenic carnivore type lifestyle, whatever it is that you're deciding to do. Just heavily negating the foods that are not serving you, and eat intuitively. And you will find that by eating intuitively, that all of these benefits will come naturally. You'll end up fasting naturally without even trying. So yeah, autophagy and fasting, I think, has attributed it. But again, just to circle back to what we said in regards to the neurotransmitters, this catecholaminergic neurotransmitter synthesis, it's the foods that we eat, or more importantly, the foods that we're not eating, because we're not blocking then our body's ability to create these neurotransmitters. And in there lies the key to combating, this depression, this anxiety, and that has been the biggest contributing factor. Fasting certainly helps, and it does elicit lots of benefits. Just eat intuitively. Eat when you're hungry. It's and that's, I think, the best advice that I can give.
Wonderful. Do you use non-nutrition related rituals such as meditation, deep breathing, prayer, sex, or punching kittens?
I love that. Yeah, so I've tried meditation a few times, guided meditation. So I'll go onto YouTube and I'll play like guided meditation. Quite often, if I'm struggling with sleep, I'll go on and I'll look for high frequency meditation and I'll listen to that. There's a lot of science to back this up as well. I haven't looked into the clinical trials and research papers in regards to how deep the benefit is, as I would with nutrition. But what I have seen does seem convincing, and it does seem to work for me. The meditation, certainly, breathing, exercises, definitely. And training, since I've been doing this running and cycling, I'm a thinker. My brain, we had this conversation before we came on air. My brain works overtime. And I do not stop thinking, especially when I go to bed. My mind works overtime, and it's absolutely debilitating. The one time that I do not think about anything whatsoever other than what I am doing is when I am fighting for my life running or cycling. So if I am running, like in a race, or I'm running with a group of people and I'm giving everything I've got, all I'm thinking about is taking my next breath and not keeling over. Then that is when everything.
I think we talked on this on Carnivore Coaches Corner too, right? About how like that's kind of the reason both of us got into running is for mental health. Like if you're one of those people like you and me, it's like, man, like we're sold out to this lifestyle, man. Like this is what we do. This is what we live, eat, sleep, breathe. No pun intended. But sometimes to stop thinking about work and as a content creator, everything that you have going on, just escaping for an hour and going for a long run, and it's just you and God and freaking and nature. It's therapeutic.
Yeah, it does, and it does make you feel good. There's a thing in running called the runner's high, and
yeah.
I believe that is to do with the production of ketones within the body, because runners who are carbs, who do a long run, will end up burning and creating, burning fat and creating ketones, whether they're ketogenic or not. And they feel that euphoria after. And I believe it's to do with reaching that level of ketone production, which we have constantly, because we're in ketosis, all of the time, or at least most of the time. But running certainly makes me feel good, and it blocks out everything. I went out on the bike recently with a guy who's ranked 48 in the UK in Ironman. He's currently on his way to compete in the World Championships. So he's an incredible athlete. I went out with him on the bike recently, and he is an incredibly strong athlete. And I was fighting for my life to keep up with him, and I didn't think about anything else. There was nothing else I could think about, because all of my energies were spent on sticking on his back wheel or keeping him in sight. And I was dead to the world after, but I felt amazing. So, all of these things will contribute to you to you feeling better. Even go for a walk, get out, get some fresh air, get into the countryside, grounding. I think there's a lot in that. And I think that environmental hormesis, like cold water dipping and, red light therapy, I think there's merit in those things as well. What I don't believe in is molecular hormesis. And by that, I mean consuming foods that are meant to be antioxidants, turmeric, being one of them, these foods that are antioxidants and not antioxidants. And we can speak about this another time, I think, but it's, they are in fact pro-oxidants, and they activate something called the NRF2 pathway, which is an oxidative stress pathway. But that's a science lesson for another day, I think. But do it naturally, cold water dipping, meditation, all of these things are fantastic tools. And what I find is that when you gravitate into our lifestyle, you start to look beyond nutrition. And that's where we begin to look at training. We begin to look at other factors, the toothpaste you
notice that like pretty much all carnivores that I know that are 90% or more strict carnivore, they're big into grounding. They're big into getting sunlight. They're big in cold plunges and ice baths. I'm doing at least one, if not two ice baths a day. And it's just like, I love it. I really love it. I love how I feel when I'm done. It's, I believe that it releases a lot of the same neurochemical, it causes a lot of the same things to happen. I'm not a scientist, obviously, you can tell. But it causes a lot of same things to happen in your brain, from what I understand, as when you take like drugs, as when you take like as if you're on cocaine or heroin or something. I mean, like you just feel great when you're done. I wouldn't know. Obviously, I'm too clean cut for that. but I just feel great after an ice bath. Like my body's just radiating heat for the next hour. It's kind of a euphoric feeling. What it does to your mental clarity too. A cold shower right before like an important podcast like this or something too. It just helps me get focused and get in the game.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, it goes well beyond diet. Even in regards to what you put on your skin. I'm careful. If the general rule of thumb is if you won't put it in your mouth, then it doesn't go on your skin. If you're not going to eat it, then you shouldn't put it on your skin. And when you start to look at all the potions and lotions on the market for health and beauty and things that, that I've been guilty of using, it's only when you begin to become further down that rabbit hole, you start to investigate and look into the ingredients within these potions and lotions and realize that the toxic chemicals.
It still goes into your body, just not orally.
Exactly. So, tallow-based creams and things, that's the type of stuff that I will use now. I don't use deodorant anymore. I don't think I smell, but I use
the tallow skincare that I use. It's got a little bit of peppermint oil in it, so don't shoot me for that. But it's but I've been putting it on my forehead. It's really helped clear up my acne that was actually caused by plant skincare products. Figured that out. So after switching over to the tallow-based cream. Mainly because of what you said at Carnivoreathon, that threw me for a loop when you said that you use tallow for skincare. I was like, I never heard of such a thing, so I looked into it. Couldn't find some of my clients are into it. No, it's great, and it actually smells really good. And I've been using it as deodorant too. I mean, like it works. It's great. It's hair gel too. Like I just put it on my hands and use it for everything.
Yeah, exactly. And coconut oil. I know that coconut oil comes from a coconut, but that's that's better for toothpaste. And as you say, these tallow-based products or animal-based products are definitely better for skin-based care. So
my dog just won't stop licking my dog won't stop licking my armpits now. That's the only problem. I'm just kidding. I'll shut up, I promise.
It's all true. It's all true. But yeah, there's way it goes well beyond diet. But diet is the most important factor. I think that this takes up the majority of health and well-being, even well beyond training and fitness. You can't out-train a bad diet. So nutrition is key. Right. I work with people who don't do any training and they are fit and healthy. Nutrition's key. And then all of these things fall into place after. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
100%. One more question, if I could, please. This is a personal one. So I'm going on a backpack trip here in a couple of weeks with my dad and my brother. And Zion, obviously, my Australian Shepherd. So it's not going to be like anything too intense where we're going to be like doing a lot of climbing. But when we go, we go hard, and we're usually like our legs are jello when we're back by the end of a trip. We'll just be gone for a couple of days. Going to be using an external frame. We'll be in the Rocky Mountains here in Montana, United States. But I'm just kind of curious as to what my diet should look like. So I was thinking of freeze drying some beef, bringing keto bricks, and then just making sure that my fishing game is on point.
Perfect. Yeah. So what would I take? Things like jerky are always good. Salami sticks, cheese is always a good one. Eggs you could take because you could boil some of these before you go. You could cook some meats before you go. They'll last a couple of days in a Tupperware jar or something. But dried meats for sure. Keto brick, fantastic. The keto bars that we do, I would take. Cheese we do in like little biscuit type things. All it is cheese, but it's been dried so they're in packets and you eat them like crisps. And then there's other things that we do, which are pork cracklings. So they're in packets, but it's just pork seasoned with salt.
Kind of like pork rinds then?
Exactly. Pork rinds, exactly it. In like, a chip packet, if you like,
Yeah, and they're super light. That's a great idea.
Exactly. But keeps coming back to the basics. It just comes back to the meats again. And that's what I would do exactly as you say, and make sure that's incentive, as you say, to get your your fishing on point. So it's live off the land, isn't it?
Yeah. Lots of butter too. Got to remember that one. We can cook everything in butter. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and Keto Pro, mate?
Brilliant. So the website for Keto Pro is theketopro.com. There's lots of free recipes for the keto community on there. Lots of videos and guides and things which are free, but most of the content is available on YouTube, which is Keto-Pro. If you search for Keto-Pro, you should find me on there. On Instagram, I'm Keto_Pro. And And again, don't shoot me in the foot. I do post content for the low carb community as well, so it's not always strict. But I do post the links and news things towards new YouTube podcasts and releases that we've done. Also on Instagram, my personal one is Richard_Smith. I tend to post content on both profiles, but the personal one is more to do with the athletic side and things that I do personally. But it's they both sort of coincide. And I'm in the middle of setting up a Mighty Networks as well, which will be available shortly. So keep an eye out for that. You can sign up to the newsletter on the website, and we'll let you know when that's like. It is live now, but there's nothing in there. We haven't been active in there, but we will be going live in there regularly. Hopefully, inviting special guests such as yourself on to part words of wisdom to the community. We're going to have people like, I'm going to ask Dr. Chafee if he would kindly come on board and part some words of wisdom. We've got Professor Kiltz is already on there, so he's a member. So fantastic, brilliant person to have on board. But we're going to be posting loads of content and information within that Mighty Networks, and helping people, guiding them through their journey. It'll be free to join initially, I believe, but we're going to have paid content in there depending on specialized courses. But it will be going live in there and lots of advice and things. And I do a live, as you know, once a week on YouTube with Stephen Thomas. We go live at 7 p.m. UK time every Sunday, and we usually get guests. We had Robert Kiltz on last week. So, we're looking at inviting other guests such as yourself and Jonathan and whoever else wants to come on to part words of wisdom.
You name the date and I'm there. I'll be honored.
Perfect. There we are. Sold. Fantastic. And Stephen, fantastic. He's a fantastic carnivore, full of advice. And that's what we do. We go live on there, and that's free. So you just come on there. That's available on my YouTube channel. It's available on his as well. If you missed the live, it's recorded and you can watch it back again. But we answer Q&A's live. We'll have a few speaking points, but we get lots of people participating, asking questions, which we will answer then. And if we don't know the answer, we find out and come back on the next show. But super exciting. And yeah, that's it really for me. It's as easy as that.
Wow. It's very, very clear by your generosity how much you care about every single person that's asking you questions about anything in the health and in the health and nutrition space. I know that you do some free consultations too. I'm just going to tell all of our listeners, guys, support Richard and everything that he's doing. All right. He sold his houses. I mean, he's sold out to this lifestyle, and he all of us are in this for this, are in this for the same reason. We don't do this to make money. We do this because we believe it's right, and we believe that it's changing people's lives. So clearly it is. Thank you again so very much for your time, Richard. God bless you and everything that you're doing. And whenever we talk next, it's not going to be soon enough. So I'm looking forward to it, whether it's Carnivoreathon or whatever. So thanks again so much for
anytime.
Yep, you got it. All right. Well, we'll chat real soon.
Yep. Well appreciated as always. Pleasure.